Okay, I'm going with a little bit of a different topic today, and that is with this question that I've gotten before with women who are like just beginning. You're a year or 2 years into your infertility journey, and now you're stepping into treatments, and you're like, okay, I've been presented with this opportunity to do an intrauterine insemination, IUI, and I'm wondering if it's worth it. Should we do it? And what's really being asked when either I'm asked that question by someone else or it was me asking that question when we were pursuing which plans and steps we should take, the question that we're actually trying to wrestle with at the root of it is this the right next step? Or am I just desperate to not be left behind? Am I just desperate and trying to control the situation? And I want to say this so clearly. As we dive into this subject and this topic, it can be easy to want to take on other people's thoughts or feelings. And my goal is ultimately just to equip you with scripture so that you can just handle these questions on an individual basis and not feel like, oh, this is the right decision to make. Because I did 2 IUIs, but I don't know that I would do it again. And I don't know that if I could go back, I would do it again, like repeat that same decision. So, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong. And it doesn't mean that you choosing to do it means it won't be successful or it's wrong for you. It doesn't mean that it's not biblical, none of those things. But we're going to dive into like exactly what that means and what I mean by that in just a second. So let's dive into this question. Is the IUI worth it? And let's kind of flesh this out. Hey friends, welcome to the Waiting Well podcast. I am your host, Courtney Dunker, and you are here because your journey to motherhood has not looked the way that you always imagined. It has held heartbreak, loneliness, and questions like, why me, God? I'm here to remind you that you do not have to walk this road alone. And here we can wait well together. Each week, I will share faith-based encouragement from my own infertility journey, provide information from guest experts on navigating infertility and conceiving, powerful testimonies, and top tips on stewarding your health and emotional well-being through this demanding journey. So if you are ready to take back control of your life, find peace with God, join the in-between spaces, and thrive in your waiting season, then meet me at the well, girl. Grab that warm chocolate chip cookie, a little bit of unicorn juice or iced coffee. We've got some intentional growth to do. Let's get it. Okay, so going back to that question, we can see very clearly that the issue is not the procedure, but the issue is actually like how we make that decision. Because infertility has this way of putting us in this state of urgency or state of emergency, where this constant feeling of, if we don't act now, we'll miss our chance. Like the salesperson quote, right? Like, you're going to fall behind, you are going to lose control, you're going to miss out on the baby that was for you, or you're going to miss out on the timing. And it's just got this like sense of like control, almost pride is driving that like somehow we do actually control when we're going to conceive and when we're going to have babies and what that timeline looks like. And fortunately, I do believe one of the plus sides of navigating infertility is that we are confronted daily that we do not have control over that. And we know who does. God does. I think that's one of the greatest gifts that God has given us through infertility is like teaching us how he does things and ways that he does things and seeing him as ultimate sovereign in control. Because could you imagine like every time that you wanted to get pregnant, you did get pregnant? And you just had no concept of like, you just kind of make this ignorant assumption that you have full control over that. You know what I mean? You just decided and you did. And I feel like that's kind of a gift that infertility does give us. I love that. But anyway, okay, so coming back to this, I want to give you very tactical clarity and emotional honesty and a biblical framework for discernment, because that's really what we're tackling when we ask this question. When we ask, should I do IUI? Should I do IVF? It's not about what should you choose, like me telling you, but it is about giving you that framework so that you can have clear discernment, you can have biblical wisdom, and help you choose from a place of peace over that sense of panic of like, if I don't do it now, then all these what ifs will come to pass. And all those what ifs are not what ifs I'm happy with. So I've got to do this now, right? So let's take a deep breath, number one, because this journey can tend to get us a little anxious and worked up and feeling like everything is so urgent. Okay, that feels good. And now I want to kind of go into first what an IUI actually is without the fluff, because maybe you're here and you're like, actually, I am considering this, or you press play because you're considering this treatment option, or that's like the next step for you. I think it's good to get a little basis of what we're talking about here. Or if you're new in your fertility journey and you're like, okay, I haven't explored that option yet, it kind of gives you some foundation to explore from and not have confusion, because confusion is actually going to create fear. So IUI stands for intrauterine insemination, but in simple terms, it's a procedure where the sperm is placed directly in the uterus around ovulation. So usually they're going to pair that with medications that stimulate your ovulation, and the goal is to improve timing. It's basically like a perfectly placed sperm, just like ready, that kind of eliminates any barriers to get to the egg, just like put me where the egg is going to be. And in terms of success rates, like generally speaking, an IUI success per cycle often falls somewhere around 10 to 20%, depending on age, diagnosis, and if medication is used. Cost-wise, which is one of the reasons why I probably would never do it again, but it can range anywhere from a few $100s per cycle to a few thousand. Mine was a few thousand both times. And just like with the medications, the monitoring, repeated cycles, I did 2 of them. This is usually, it's on the cheaper end comparatively to IVF. And that's why it's usually recommended first, because, for example, like I know several people in real life friends that had success with IUI. One of my friends, for all 4 of her kids, IUI, all 4 of them. Another friend, second infertility, IUI worked really well. A third friend, all of her kids, IUI, same thing, medicated cycles, and got it right away for both times. So it really is cost effective, a great option to explore if there's no reason to think otherwise that it wouldn't work. But what I wasn't prepared for is that it doesn't usually work it doesn't have high success rates. I wasn't really prepared for that. I think I was just kind of like naive in the sense of, well, I'm in the unexplained category. So like, surely the sperm, like this just makes sense. It's just going to be right there. They're going to put it in the exact spot that it needs to be. And I'm going to be able to have success. Simple as that. And it's never that simple, unfortunately, with infertility. If you've been on this journey, you know that much. So it does make sense for some couples medically, but for others, it can become emotional and financially exhausting. Like I feel like it kind of set us back financially when we weren't really I was prepared for success essentially, and emotionally I was like super triggered because I felt like how could this not happen? Like this seems to be so simple, such an easy fix. And this procedure sounds like, I don't know, I guess I just was looking at it like there's no way this isn't going to work. So emotionally, I felt pretty devastated after the second one, especially. The first one was like, okay, that's okay. Like we're just warming up. Like number 2, here we come. And then the second one happened like the next month. And I was really heartbroken over that. It felt pretty sobering that this journey was not going to be like that. I don't know. I guess in my head, I was kind of like, well, maybe we're just doing something wrong, or we're missing a link or something. And this is just going to connect that link so that it happens. And that was not the case for us. So I think in many ways, it can feel like such an easy, simple step that sounds good and sounds productive, not as big of a commitment, obviously, as IVF, but, looking at the grand scheme of things, is not going to have a high success rate. So in that scenario, if you do have money to kind of burn in a sense, I think it's a great option. But I wish I would have had more questions and really dug a little bit deeper into things so that I could have felt a little bit more aware going into it and make that decision accordingly. So let's dive into kind of the real costs that people don't talk about and the emotional, which I briefly touched on just a minute ago, but it's that hope spike that happens, right? Because now you're getting help. This is usually the front lines of treatment is an IUI or medicated cycles. So maybe medicated cycles didn't work with your OBGYN and you're moving on to an IUI. And this is kind of that like the first guns that go in, and you have that hope. And then there's a crash because you didn't realize that only 10 to 20% are going to be successful. That is not a very big number. When you look at it's like 1 in, what is it, like 100 or something like that? 1 in 100 is going to be successful. That's kind of crazy odds. But we're going into it with all of the hope, right? Because we're just like, we know people that it did work with. And so we're hopeful of that happening for us. And it's really what comes after the crash. Like we do the IUI and then we have to wait 2 weeks. So our heart is bracing itself during that 2-week wait. Every symptom we are analyzing, every twinge is magnified. I mean, it is that quiet pressure that is just like, okay, if this doesn't work, we'll just try again and again and again. But suddenly it feels like we're failing and we're choosing not to continue. And that can feel like you're quitting because you are asking your body to do things that it's not doing. And there's so many women that feel trapped, not because they don't have faith, but because they're just exhausted, because they're going through this hope cycle every month, right? It's like this month's, okay, I'm going to do the practical how-to for 2 weeks. I'm going to track all the things. I'm going to get monitored. I'm going to blah, 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 blah. We got our ducks in a row. We feel in control. We feel hopeful. Then we wait. And we crash and burn during the wait because maybe we're testing at home. Maybe we're analyzing things. Our hope bubble is just filling. And then like with an IUI, we don't see success. And suddenly that comes crashing down. And we start questioning, why did we do this? And was this worth the money? And we just wasted money and now we have to wait again. And what does this mean for us? And generally, 9 times out of 10, the clinic is like, well, we'll do it again. We'll do it again and we'll do it again. And they'll run up a bill of IUIs 4 times for a client because that's just protocol. And then they'll move on to IVF. And now they've just made, I don't know, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 off of you in that span of, and I'm not saying that that's what they're trying to do, but I do think there's something to be said that they're just kind of like on to the next protocol, the next attempt, and not giving you the capacity and the time to process what you felt during that 2-week wait of hope. Because like I kind of felt like I was pregnant. Like I just felt like I was like living in this reality that like I wasn't actually going to be experiencing, but I had convinced myself it was that reality of being pregnant. So as we kind of step back and look at this, how can we adjust ourselves to be in a place of clear discernment that like we know to move forward with something, specifically IUI right now we're talking about, but like we know to move forward with a treatment plan because we have prayed, we have discerned, and we have wisdom that says to move forward. And many women, many couples are not doing this. So let's break down a biblical framework that we can start making decisions from that allows you to feel confident as you are going into your treatment and not like you're grasping at straws or trying to have hope in, your eggs or your sperm or your embryo or the embryologist or the, fertility doctor, whoever it might be. Your hope is always in the Lord, plain and simple. So let's talk about that. First of all, I want to offer you 4 questions that you need to pray through. Whether you're considering IUI now, later, or deciding whether to continue, these questions will help you. Question number 1, is this decision rooted in peace or panic? So scripture tells us in James 3:17 that the wisdom from above is peaceable. And in Philippians 4:6-7, we are reminded that God's peace guards our hearts and our minds. So are you feeling that? Are you experiencing that? God's guidance does not come through pressure. So if you feel a sense of pressure and urgency, like if I don't move now, I'm going to miss the boat, I'm going to miss God's will for my life, that is not the Lord. He is not guiding you that way. Conviction is different than urgency. So it's important that we pay attention to what is being spoken. Is it conviction or is it a sense of urgency that's man placed on you? Like by man, like whether it's your doctors, your spouse, your mom, like whoever, friend, yourself, whatever it might be. So if the driving force is fear of being left behind, the fear of running out of time, or the fear of disappointing others, that is when we want to pause. Pause. Like, do not move forward until we can unpause, because that has now changed. So question number 2, are we seeking control or stewardship? This one is convicting, because I think this can be like asked across all venues, right? In all of our life, we should be asking, am I trying to control the situation, my spouse, my finances, my job, or am I stewarding this? The difference is control is going to say, if I just do one more thing, if I just switch clinics, if I just work with this doctor, if I just try this treatment plan, I can make this happen. Whereas stewardship is going to ask, is this faithful with what I've been given? My finances, emotional capacity, our marriage, and our bodies? I was actually just having a conversation the other night at a girls' night event thing. This friend was sharing with me how they've put a pause on everything because her body was just not doing well under the weight of fertility treatments. And she was like, honestly, we just were so stressed. It felt so much pressure in our marriage and in my body that we were just kind of like, what is the point of this? We don't have to do this. And they put an end to treatments at that point, and they're on pause and exploring other options. And I was like, wow, I'm so proud of you for the maturity in making that decision and knowing your body and your marriage well enough to be like, we don't actually have to put ourselves through this. This is not the only way to become a family, to have kids, to become parents. And how incredible that they were so in touch with the Lord's Spirit that they could sense that there was not peace there. There was control. There was not stewardship. Stewardship looked different. So they had to make different decisions to get in alignment with stewardship. And then we can move on to question number 3. Can we emotionally and spiritually survive the outcome either way? This is heavy. I was talking with a client about this, and that was a huge thing that she was wrestling with, making the decision to move forward with another IVF round. And she's saying, I'm so fragile. I'm in a place that I don't know that I can recover if, X, Y, and Z happens again. And this one really matters. I think we discount it a little bit because we can feed off of what is being shared to us from the clinics of like, okay, so this just basically the game plan, the logic of it, because they're not experiencing the emotion of it. But we are. We are experiencing the sleepless nights, the questions, the heartache, the crying, the tears, the meltdowns, the body responses to the stuff that we're putting in our body. So I think it's super important to ask you, could I survive if this doesn't work out again? Would I be okay if nothing changes and we spent this money? How will I feel if I go through all of these steps and I'm still not pregnant? Because this is not about being strong. It's about being anchored in the truth so that we can grieve and also stay grounded and stay healthy enough to do what God has already placed in front of us. Again, that stewardship issue, right? God has you doing important work right now. Motherhood is not the only thing that you are meant to be doing in this world. It's not yet your calling yet. So there is a calling on your life. Your days are not wasted right now just because you're not a mother. You're not in this like awkward waiting room where God is not using you at all and you're just waiting to get used. But we can be so fixated on like the future that we forget He can use us today. There could be a special conversation where someone could come to know Jesus because we were paying attention today. Question number 4, are we united or just exhausted? And this is important to touch base with your spouse on because I think as you go throughout the journey, there can be seasons where like one of you feels like the desire to just like sprint and run and make it happen. And the other's kind of just going through the motions, maybe just kind of quietly complying. But that's where resentment can build up if it's not spoken about, or if like you get in unalignment because you didn't really discuss where you're both at. And then unity starts breaking down. So it's important for you to you're not going to have identical emotions, but you want to be moving in a shared direction. It's important to have that conversation, because if you're not making space for each other to share where you're at, if you're tired, if you're burnt out, if you're feeling hopeful, or if your hope is in the wrong thing, then what's really the point, right? Like, you're not really building a family yet because you're not working as one. It's so cool that we get the opportunity to build that before we have the kids, right? And finally, it is okay if the answer is to wait or no. I just want to be so clear. Like, I actually saw a friend do this. She already has kids, but she was going through an IVF cycle because she had gone through a miscarriage prior. And she was sharing that she had already gone through some IVF steps and was about to, I think she was going to do the transfer. And she just immediately was not at peace. And it was really cool. I don't know if she's a believer. I don't know her that well in that sense, but we've connected a few times over the years. And it's really cool to see that she pulled out of moving forward with that because she did not have the peace to do that. And I thought, we need to have that permission. That not doing an IUI is not a lack of faith, and doing an IUI is not proof of faith. You're not behind. You're not less spiritual. One side of the fence or the other doesn't mean anything about your faith other than like what comes down to it at the end of the day is like, are you being obedient to what God has put on your heart? Because if you need to say no, you need to pull the plug, you need to put a pause on it, even if money is spent, even if there's a timeline, there's nothing more important than obeying God. Nothing is more important, not even getting a child. Because at the end of the day, it is God who gives the child. So if we are directly disobeying when He's asked us to wait or to pause, where is the blessing in that? Right? So we have to release ourselves from any kind of pressure or timeline shame that we have to make a certain decision by a certain time. And let's talk about the 2-week wait reality. I think that's great way to kind of like shape things up, because it's the biggest part of your IUI journey that's going to feel the most vulnerable. So whether you choose IUI or not, most women tell me that the hardest part is not the procedure, it's the waiting. It's the 2-week wait. It is terrible. Like, whenever you're trying to conceive, you're waiting for 2 weeks to find out if it worked. And that emotional chaos, it's not fair. Like, I actually have a bone to pick, I feel like, when I get to heaven, when I'm like, Lord, why does everything feel like your period? Why does pregnancy symptoms feel like your period? Like, you literally think you're pregnant, but it's just your period. That's not fair. That's not cool. Especially for these women like me going through infertility. There's so much emotional chaos during that 2-week wait. The mental spirals, like just white knuckling things, because you're just like you just want the outcome that you want. Plain and simple. You just really want that outcome. But that is why structure really matters, not to control what's going to happen, because we can't do that. But it's a way to stay anchored and grounded that no matter what the result is, we feel anchored and bedrocked to the truth. Our hope is in the Lord. Our focus is on the Lord, and we know that He is a perfect Father who does not make mistakes. So should we not be pregnant, we can still have hope and peace in Him. And that is exactly why I created the 2-week wait audio devotional. It's not promising you results or a way to, manipulate and try to actually get pregnant through that 2 weeks. The goal is that you are walking day by day through your audio devotional of the day. So it kind of like syncs with your 2-week wait, and you are filling yourself spiritually with scripture, with prayers to your situation, with the truth. You're reminding yourself of the truth. You're course correcting your emotions and your thoughts. So when your emotions feel really loud and unmanageable, you are taking them captive and making them obedient to the truth. So if you are currently in that 2-week wait window, whether that's going to be natural, medicated, IUI, or IVF, doesn't matter. This devotional was truly created to support you daily. And I want to challenge you to go grab it, the show notes. You can make that purchase. I think it's like $47 or something. For 14 days, it's going to give you an audio, a devotional. It also comes with a meal plan just for just adding little bonuses like that in there so that you can have extra support. I just want to make that 2-week window feel like you are at a wellness retreat and you're just being supported hand and foot by someone who has like walked that path with you. And you feel like, okay, either way, I can handle what God is going to send my way because I'm tending to the garden of my heart. So if that is you, and you have been struggling with that 2-week wait window, I challenge you to do it because every single month you can go through it again and again and again. It's just always going to be yours once you purchase it. And that way you can just have peace and discernment as you are processing it. And if you're facing even bigger decisions or you feel like you need to go deeper and you truly can look at the mirror and be like, I'm just not okay. I'm not doing well with this. The waiting well framework is a way to go even deeper than that. It's designed to help you determine next steps, process, grieve, lament what has already taken place, and help you really be able to put things into the picture in front of you, kind of putting puzzle pieces together so that you can be at peace with what God is doing in your story today without waiting for him to do the miracle. So if you're like, okay, that is what I need, that also is in the show notes as well. And that's an 8-week discipleship group. So a little bit more intimate and intentional. Anyway, I hope that these questions really help you as you process whether or not to do an IUI. And I hope at the end of the day that you go to the Lord for all decisions that you make, because no one's opinion should be louder or more prioritized than just simply the voice of the Lord. I am so glad that you chose to meet me at the well today. If this episode inspired you, changed you, or blessed you in some way, I would love for you to do one of two things. First, head to Apple Podcasts at that link below and leave a review. And second, screenshot this episode and share it in your stories, tagging me at Sown with Strength, or text it on over to a friend that this episode might bless. These are the number one ways to thank me. I am truly so grateful to be building out this community, and I cannot wait to see you on the next episode. Until then, go get a workout done for me, and I will see you right back here at the Waiting Well podcast.